A very good morning to all the learners. I welcome you all for the BBA Marketing Management Program. Today, we will be discussing on a subject, business communication, which comes in your second year. Myself, Dr.R.Narasimhan from School of Management Studies, Tamil Nadu Open University. So let us venture into what is business communication is all about and how it is very much useful in business organizations to excel. First of all, if I talk about communication, generally many people think that communication is all about speaking fluent English language. But communication is all about transfer and understanding of any information. I'm having some idea in my mind and I just want to transfer that particular information to somebody. For that, I am using a methodology which is called as communication. So communication is not about speaking a good English language. Any language you can speak, that will be termed as communication. Only thing, my idea should be understood in the same way which I have intended to the opposite person. Now, what is the distinction between communication and business communication? General communication is different, but when you all work in a common organization, when you do a business, in any organization, the way in which we speak to people or any kind of formal communication or discussion, transfer of information should happen in a procedural basis. So for that only, we have dedicated a separate paper called business communication. This business communication paper will help you to understand in what way you people can groom yourself while you speak to an executive or your boss or your client or customers. Okay, let us now focus on what is the meaning given by various authors for communications. Generally, the commonly understood meaning of communication is a process, okay, of exchange of thoughts, facts, opinion, or information between two or more person. This is very important. You can communicate any information, but the communication cannot happen with only one person. There should be need of two or three person. And why you communicate? Because you are exchanging some information for some common benefits. For every communication, please understand there are two important features. One is there should be a sender and receiver. Without a sender and receiver, communication is not successful. And second thing, that information, that exchange of idea between two people should be understood by both of them in the same way. If I am communicating something to you, you should understand what I am saying in the same way what I meant to say, right? Now, in communication, we have a concept called types of communication, channels of communication, mediums of. There are three topics which are very important. Now, in this slide, I'm just going to show you what do you mean by the channel of communication. Channel in the sense how a communication is happening. Okay, for any communication, first of all, you should understand for whom, for who you are going to communicate, the information you are going to say, what kind of information you are going to speak, through which channel you are going to speak, then to whom the, the information is going to receive, and what is the expected result. Generally, in the slide I'm moving my cursor, you can see here, who means generally we used to call that person as a sender. A sender has some idea in his mind. He is converting that idea into a message. That message is converted to a channel and also a medium. When I say channel, if you are going to write a leave letter to a boss, you are going to write through a letter and you are going to submit that letter through a formal channel. But when your friend is inviting you for a dinner, if you're not able to come for the dinner, you're just going to make a phone call and say that, hey buddy, I'm not able to come for dinner today. Relationship with your friend is something informal. Relationship with your company's boss is something different. So any relationship which comes in your organization, we used to call that as a formal channel of communication. Whereas any information which you're going to do with your friends or your colleagues or something, it will be called as informal channel of communication. Okay, even in the office, some of them may be my colleague, but they may be also my friends as well. Okay. Second thing, the most important thing is called medium. Medium is something called the tool by which you're going to communicate to somebody. Tool, a cell phone is a medium, writing a letter is a medium, sending an email is a medium, talking to sending a voice message is a medium. Through that medium only you are just communicating what you are planning in your mind to somebody. Then after this channel and medium, the communication will reach the receiver, and the receiver will understand that message. We used to call this as decoding. So when you are sending the message to somebody, we used to call that as encoding. When the receiver receives the message, and when he analyzes that, we used to call that as uh, decoding. Finally, you are going to analyze the final objective of communication is, we used to call that as feedback. When you have communicated something to somebody, the opposite person should give some reaction. He should react to your communication. Either he should be happy with your message, he should be sad with your message, or he should give some kind of a positive gesture based on your message, or even he may be angry on you by saying something. When you say something to other, if that person is angry on you, in that way also the communication is successful. Why? Because he has understood the meaning what you are trying to say. So this is communication channel. The next one, we used to see something called types of communication, where the types of communication generally focuses on internal and external form of communication. Any internal form of communication is, we used to call that as uh, communication which is going to happen within the organizational setting. Communication which is going to happen within the organization. Communication which you are doing outside the organizational setting. So inside the organizational setting, we used to call it as internal communication. It is further divided into formal and informal communication. Formal communications are all those communication which you communicate to your boss, which you communicate to your junior colleague or your subordinates, which you communicate with your customer, the communication which you're going to communicate with your um, any employee in your organization will be grouped under formal. Informal communication is inside your organization. Generally, people used to talk various rumors and gossips. It is inherent nature of human beings. So that kind of any unauthorized information which employees are sharing may be called as grapevine, and any communication which you do outside the world will be called as communication with outside world, external communication, right? So now we will see what kind of communication media, as I said, medium by which you communicate to others. Generally we communicate by verbal and non-verbal. This is what happening throughout the world. Okay, so what is verbal communication? Verbal communication is whatever you speak, okay, by words. So speaking, listening comes under the group of oral communication. Again, it is called as verbal. The second one is any kind of writing communication, writing a report, writing a letter, reading, all these things. So verbal, under the verbal, we have oral and written communication, and we do have non-verbal communication. In the non-verbal communication, we have various aspects. Students, you know something like 90% of, or research says more than 75% of communication what human beings do is non-verbal. Okay, so we use our facial expressions, we use body language, we use gestures, we text somebody, our personal appeal. Okay, even silence is also termed as is termed as one way of communication. Silence. Okay, right. Now, uh, let us focus on what are the various channels of communication. As I said before, the channels of communication is something which it is called as vertical flow of communication and horizontal flow of communication. Okay. Now, vertical flow of communication may happen even downward as well as upward. So any communication which is when a boss is communicating something to the subordinate, okay, when a boss is giving an instruction, we call that as downward communication. Okay, so you see an organizational structure in any organization. So organizational structure, you can see orders may come from top to bottom. Those type of communications is called as formal channels of communication. Generally, all your office orders, all your office circular, everything is sent by top authority, and you employees should execute that. You should just follow that. We call that as formal communication. Okay, formal downward communication. And what is upward communication? In certain companies, even the bottom level operational employees may give valuable suggestion to the top authority people. So whenever the bottom level employees give information or suggestion, or when they have some grievances, they will communicate that to their senior managers. That kind of communication may be termed as upward communication, right? So guys, you might be studying a paper on principles of management. In that, communication is also called as one of the directing function. So when a boss want to direct their employee, three elements are very important. One is leadership, second one is motivation, third one is communication. So communication is one of the aspect of directing. Okay, next one, we see something called as uh, we have already seen what is vertical communication. Now let us see horizontal or lateral communication. Guys, all those communication, what you do with your same level category colleagues or same level category employees, that may be called as horizontal or lateral communication. We in management principles, this lateral communication is termed as gangplank. Gangplank is a concept which was Henry Foyle in his 14 principles. He used to mention this gangplank. Here, what he says in organization, when some communication want to be transferred, it just moves in a formal way. But what Henry Foyle suggests is, if a communication want to travel from one department to another department, and it should reach some other department, it will take some time. Instead of that, let the same level employees communicate the matter within themselves, so that the transfer of information will be happening in a very speeder manner. You can see this diagram here. It is an example of gangplank. What this diagram depicts is, there are two employees D and G, but both of them work in two different departments. Now D want to communicate some information to G, who is in some other department, or let us say some other branch. So when you want to communicate that information formally, he will transform the information to his superior C, then superior C will transform the information to his superior B, then B will transform his information to his top boss A. From A, again that communication will go to the next department, where it will reach E, F, and finally only the communication will reach D. Instead of wasting time in this kind of an order, let D and D employees communicate directly. This is what the concept of gangplank is all about. Okay, we also call this as a scalar chain. Now, next one, is something called as grapevine. Now, grapevine is another interesting concept in communication. Generally, sociologists, psychologists used to speak about this concept of grapevine. Grapevine is something, an inherent quality of employees working in an organization. So, grapevine generally say like it is informal communication. So, any kind of employees who do who share some unauthorized information between themselves, we used to call that as grapevine. It can be a rumor or a gossip, whatever happening inside. It will be happening inside the organization only, but the people, employees used to share unauthorized information, and that will be called as grapevine. But experts say this grapevine will be also having some positive aspects. One of the important aspects, positive aspects of grapevine is, of course, it is informal network of communication, but information will travel in a very speeder manner. Okay, so that is one of the important quality of grapevine. And second most important thing is the managers or the boss will try to understand what is the real opinion of the employees, because employees will not say many things in a formal meeting, but they may have certain grievances. So through grapevine you can able to feel the pulse of your employees, what they really think about the company, or what they really think about the manager himself. All these kind of information you can able to collect through grapevine. So these are the positive features of grapevine. Apart from, even grapevine is not accepted, but it also have certain positive features which will help the company to channelize their direction. Okay, but grapevine will also have various negative information, but these negative informations also have certain minor effect on company's progress. So we should understand grapevine in both way. One is positive aspect, grapevine will support various information to the organization, but in the negative side, it will also slow the process in which something is happening. Now, what is crosswise communication? Now, this crosswise communication is a communication which is happening between different departments. Apart from the different department, communication which is happening between different rank of people. So a lower subordinate can directly contact the senior manager. A vice president can directly contact the divisional clerk. In this way, people can communicate across the department in various level of hierarchy is crosswise communication. Now, we have seen what is meant by channel of communication, what is meant by what is meant by types of communication. Now, in the channel of communication, let us see what is communication medium. In the communication medium, there are two types. One is one is physical medium, and second one is mechanical medium. In the physical medium, all those what and all, yeah, audience can see and hear, all these things can be termed under physical medium. Under mechanical medium, all communication which is happening through electronic devices will be termed as mechanical medium. Let's see the examples here. When you communicate in a large meeting, when you conduct a departmental meeting, or when you have a exclusive one-to-one personal meeting, or video conferencing, virtual meeting, word by, when you communicate by word or word of mouth in the sense, you tell something positive about the company product to somebody. All these things will be termed as physical medium, whereas mechanical medium is termed as anything which you make by without the presence of two people physically. So it can be an email, or a weekly newsletter of an organization, company bulletins, personal letters, internet, magazine, papers, everything is termed as mechanical medium. Okay, right. So now let us go into the next thing. Now we are going to see uh, what is which communication medium is more effective. When you directly go and talk to a person in a face-to-face manner, that type of communication is more effective, right? Because when you have a problem, you go and sit with your boss, directly speak to him, you can understand what is the real issue. The next level is something called video conferencing. It have a little bit lesser medium, because face to face you have more connect with your effectiveness with the opposite person, then video conferencing, then telephonic conversation, then two-way communication, radio communication, then your letters, email. Of course, letters, email, it has good effectiveness, but for informal way you communicate with people with letter and email. But even in formal discussions, when you communicate directly with your boss, it has richer medium. That is what companies conduct interviews, where they ask the candidate to come and present himself directly in front of the interview board, and they do a face-to-face interview, which will have a richer medium. Guys, here in this slide, you're you're just seeing what are the different types of communication medium. So we have one-to-one medium, uh, we have a small group, and we have corporate communication. You can see how it is happening. So when you are speaking to one-to-one, informally you can talk, or you can have a formal conversation. You can do it in a virtual medium as well. Small, when you are communicating in a small group, then all these mediums can help you. But when you communicate with a large number of people, you can have video conferencing like that. Or the next thing, multiple level of people are there, means you can go for a newsletter or social blog or email or a video post like that. Now let us see what is the method of communication by which people used to communicate. In this method of communication, we have verbal, non-verbal, spoken. Under the verbal communication, we have spoken communication, we have written communication, and under the non-verbal communication, we have body language and emotional vibration. Okay, so generally, any communication you can group under three major subheadings. One is oral, written, and body language. Right. So in this, now I am going to introduce you to a most important part of communication topic, which is called as non-verbal communication. Guys, non-verbal communication, as I said before, it constitute for 80% of communication. Okay, so non-verbal communication are all those communications by which we people communicate to other. As I said before, all our facial expression, our body movement, all these things, even the sitting position by which you sit in a meeting, also communicate something to the other person. This non-verbal communication is more reliable, because it shows the true color of the person who is communicating to you. Okay, so in order to come, if communication want to be more effective, non-verbal communication is also very important. So there are various non-verbal communication techniques. So one of the major technique is facial expressions, because doctors say you can even do a plastic surgery on a human face, but you cannot change the eyes of a person. So when this is the situation, please understand, eyes will not lie. So when a person is communicating to you, facial expression is very important. That shows maximum information. If a policeman want to interrogate a criminal, Generally, criminals tell lie. They don't accept their crime. But an effective police person can understand his face and able to grasp what real information the criminal is communicating to him. So generally in psychologists, they have identified various facial expressions. You can have people may do facial expressions of fear on something, happy, angry, sad, disguised, or surprised. So there are a number of facial expressions. Now under the non-verbal communication, we have gesture or posture. Okay, the way in which you move your body, okay, and the way in which you express some message, your voluntary involuntary movement may be called as gesture or posture, your vocal characteristics, your voice is also carrying some message, how soft you are speaking to somebody, how hard you are speaking to somebody. There may be some political leaders, when they speak in a public meeting, you can able to see their voice tone. It will be very authoritative. They might have that kind of a triad in them by birth. So that voice is also having some characteristics. Okay, then comes your personal appearance. People respond to others based on their personal physical appearance. Okay, so physical, that is what people used to say. Even when you go for office meeting and all, the way in which you dress, the way in which you groom yourself will also is a very important matter, right? The next one is touching behavior. There are some people who have the habit of touching somebody and speaking. So when I speak to my colleague, when I'm speaking some very important information, i go I go very near to him. I will just touch his hand and say, brother, I am expecting an hike of salary next month. This is a sensitive information which I'm just sharing to my colleague. Then I will go near to him and touch his hand and speaking to himself. All these things carry some message. It shows the importance of the message. Okay, so when you, even in some places, when you communicate some sad message to somebody, you touch the hands of the person and speak, communicate the information in a smaller voice tone. Okay, right. The next one is use of time and space. So the timing of your communication is very important. Which place you are communicating is very important. So you cannot talk in a general language in a formal company meeting, and similarly you cannot talk in a formal style when you talk or making a chatting with your friends in a tea shop. All this use of time and space is very important, right? So guys, up to this we have seen various introduction of communication. We have seen why communication is very important, what are the main objective of any communication. We have seen what kind of what are the channels of communication. Under that we have seen formal, informal, all these channel. We have seen different types of communication. Next one we have seen various channels types, and third one we have seen the medium of communication. So all these things will give you a picture why communication is very important in business organization setting. And next one, we have seen the importance of non-verbal communication, and how it is going to help to understand the communication in a very better manner. And finally, we are touching upon, we are going to open up a topic on uh, planning for effective business messages. This planning for effective business messages, we will be seeing in what way you plan for a message, especially when you write a company, when you are writing a letter, when you are preparing a company report, or when you prepare a company prospectus. All these things you want to plan. Okay, when you make an advertisement for your company in a newspaper, for all these things there's a step-by-step process you want to follow. So now this unique new topic we will discuss in the next video. So this book is available with you. We have supplied the hard copy of the book of this business communication. Kindly go through all these concepts what we have discussed now with the textbook. And if you have any doubts, kindly reach us on School of Management Studies, Tamil Nadu Open University. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.